first ad we're looking at is this one, right about here. It's a pretty silly one, I know. With this ad, we're going to be digging into the fallacies that are present in it and why it is illogical, as well as what this ad says about society. So, put up the ad again. I'll just leave it up here. So this ad is basically arguing that feeding kids meat is equivalent to child abuse. That is the basic argument. There's no disputing that. This ad is also telling viewers that by feeding your kids meat, you're making them fat. Another hidden meaning of this advertisement is where it says, "Fight the fat, go vegetarian." This is implying that 1, the only way to not be fat is to be vegetarian, and that 2, being fat is something that you have to fight, which is saying that it's a negative thing. So we have feeding your kids meat is child abuse. Meat makes you fat. Being fat is bad. So right off the bat, we've got quite a lot of issues with this argument, I would say. So the main fallacy in this argument, I would say, is faulty cause. How is PETA able to objectively say that feeding your kids meat is child abuse? It's just absolutely ridiculous. Like, take a look at this real life example. This is how this argument would look in real life.
Hey Dad, what's for dinner?
We got pork back ribs for dinner today, son.
Yes, I'm so excited. I actually love pork ribs, Dad. Thank you.
Me too.
Are you really gonna feed your son that? Huh? You want him to be fat? You're gonna feed him meat?
What are you talking about, man?
Why would you feed him meat, bro? That's child abuse. Come on, make your kid vegetarian.
It's pretty ridiculous, right? Now, the basic argument goes something like this. Feeding your kids meat makes them fat. Making your kids fat is child abuse. Therefore, feeding your kids meat is child abuse. Does any part of that seem logical to you? I didn't think so. This ad says that as a society, we often do what is traditional and considered normal without thinking of the consequences. By saying that feeding kids meat is child abuse, this ad is already implying that we are feeding kids meat. And it is also assuming that we're willing to abuse our children, or that we aren't knowledgeable about the definite consequences that come with eating meat. This ad just does not work because PETA refuses to provide any research or support that goes along with them saying that meat is making you fat. The philosopher that would support or refute this argument is Socrates. Socrates would refute this argument because his philosophy set the basic parameters for what a proper deductive argument should be. A proper deductive argument is one that is sound, meaning it is true and the facts are honest and is valid, or it's laid out in a way that makes sense. Now, this argument is actually valid, so it's half sound. The problem comes when you look at the truth of it. Socrates argues that a proper deductive argument must be truthful, and this argument just simply is not truthful. So for number 2, I chose to do a Little Pump song called Flex Like Ooh, and I'll just show a little clip.
Look on, ayy, moving in bricks, had a bound like ooh, moving in bricks, had a bound like ooh, diamond on my wrist ain't look like glue, diamond on my wrist ain't look like glue.
Pretty catchy, I know. So first, let's just take a look at the song's message. So the message of the song is that it is very important to have money, and if you do have money, you will be very happy and satisfied with showing it off to everyone around you in very obvious ways, like buying expensive clothing, shoes, and cars and jewelry. So the whole song is about Lil Pump flexing, or showing off this aforementioned items, and him talking about how much he spends money. The song is also providing a message that is a little bit more implicit. The song is saying that it's okay to do terrible things as long as you profit from it. This is where the connection to our ethics unit philosophy comes in. Lil Pump is a consequentialist, and he is very hedonistic. He thinks that his actions don't really matter as long as they result in him getting money, and that is the basic definition of a consequentialist reasoner. They think that it's not about their actual actions which matter, but it's about what comes out of them. And since Lil Pump just worries about how much pleasure and money he's going to get out of something, he wouldn't mind selling drugs to people as long as he gets profit. And this is how this would look in real life.
Yo, you got stuck?
Hey,
What's up, dude?
you really think it's okay to sell drugs to a kid? He's a minor. You're selling drugs.
I don't care as long as I get that money.
Lil Pump has lines in the song like, moving them bricks to get diamonds on my wrist, but do you really think it's okay to be selling drugs as long as it pays for your jewelry addiction? Personally, I think the message of the song is just terrible and just very stupid. I don't align with Lil Pump's values at all in the song. You know, I'm not a hedonistic. I'm more of a Kantian, but I think to some extent you could justify your actions based on the consequences, but I definitely don't think you could justify furthering someone's drug habit and profiting off an addiction by just saying that it's okay because you make money. So. Number 3, we're looking at this beautiful book right here. It's by George Orwell. You might have heard of it. It's called 1984. This book deals heavily with themes of reality, so this is why I'm going to relate it to our metaphysics unit. The book takes place in a dystopian future where people have no freedom of speech or freedom of thought. They're constantly monitored, and if they say anything that's out of line, they're at risk of being kidnapped and murdered and being forgotten by everyone. When I say forgotten, people don't just actually forget about them. The government makes sure that they're forgotten by erasing any records of their existence. Aside from doing this, they actually go out of their way to delete truths and change records and actually manipulate history in the timeline. And that's what the main character of the story, Winston, does. Winston is a worker at the Ministry of Truth, and his job is to just rewrite history. He removes any and every record of all songs, books, poetry, music, and news that go against the government's agenda and rewrites them to align with their current standpoint on politics. You may be thinking, well, the government still knows the truth and it's still out there, but really, the reality for everyone living in the society is just they're blind to everything and they're kept in the dark. But the darkness is the reality. Let's look at this skit for example.
Hey Dad, what color are those flowers?
Those are called trees, son, and they're chartreuse.
I like your scarf. Chartreuse is a really nice color.
Oh, thank you, but this is not chartreuse. This is red.
What do you mean it's red? It's always been chartreuse.
Nope.
This man's son was taught to believe that the color red was actually chartreuse, and so that was his reality for his entire life. Just like the people in 1984. They're taught fake news and constantly shoved fake information down their throats, and that's all they know. This is their reality. This is the only reality. So what is reality? Well, 1984 explains it as idealistic. They believe that reality is in your thoughts and your minds, because if you can't perceive it, it really doesn't exist to the citizens at all. Well, originally I didn't consider myself an idealist. After considering how the theories presented in 1984 could be applied to real life, it started to make a lot more sense to me. If I lived in a society where I was unable to think or express myself, and I was constantly fed a stream of lies and misinformation, that would become my whole reality. How would I be able to think outside of what I know, even if I was brave enough to do so in the first place? So honestly, this book kind of changed my mind, and I really think that reality is based on what we perceive and what we think, because if we didn't have that, nothing would exist to us. Finally, for the aesthetics unit, I chose to talk about Banksy's artwork, The Girl with the Balloon, and more specifically the stunt that he pulled with it a couple years back. So basically, this painting was created by anonymous street painter Banksy, who is pretty prevalent online and social media, and he's very widely recognized and regarded as a great artist. So one of his paintings made it to an auction house, and just as it was about to go for sale, it shredded itself. Take a look.
Art connoisseurs could only watch in horror as an expensive piece was shredded before their eyes.
It's pretty crazy, right? But there's a deeper meaning behind this. It's not just some prank to get attention, but I believe that this is actually a way of Banksy expressing how he feels about the purpose of beauty and what it really means to be art. By shredding the painting, Banksy intended to show that he wished his art wasn't sold for money and instead should be able to be appreciated by everyone who wished to connect with it. Ironically, the painting sold for more money after this, but that's not really the point. Banksy's viewpoint very closely correlates with Gandhi's view on what art and beauty truly is, as they believe that it should be for the truth of it and not for profit. And Banksy's art is very honest. It's very vulnerable, and it has a certain innocence to it that I could really appreciate and connect to. And I think that's what he's trying to express, and he definitely is not trying to make money off of it. So the question is, what is the purpose of art? Well, if you look at Banksy, it's very similar to Gandhi, as they believe that art should be made for the purpose of art, and that it should be truthful and should have some deeper meaning to it, and it should definitely not be made for profit. Personally, I agree with this viewpoint because if I disagreed with it, there would be a lot of issues when it comes to people saying that things that are sold explicitly for money are beautiful. Take a look at this example.
Hey, what's up, man? I just got these new pool noodles. Aren't they beautiful?
No, why would they be beautiful?
What do you mean? Because they look good.
No, even though they may be pretty on the outside, they're not really beautiful on the inside.
I definitely don't think those pool noodles are beautiful. Maybe they're nice looking, but they're sold for money and they weren't created with any honesty or meaning behind them. So I do agree that art shouldn't be just made for money. It should have truth behind it. It should have honesty behind it. And I think that's what the purpose of art really is. I think a good artist doesn't make something to just make money off of it and just look nice, but I think they pour their feelings and their emotions into it so the viewer can interpret it in their own way and also get some of their meaning out of it. Thank you for watching.